America's war with Iran nears the 6-month mark as midterm elections creep closer. And the doctor who guided the U.S. through COVID is being targeted, as is birthright citizenship. All this and more as we take a look at This Week in Washington. And for more on all of this, let's bring in our Washington correspondent, Reggie Cecchini. So, Reggie, let's start with where things stand in the U.S.-Iran war, because there's been a lot of conflicting reports. Trump now says he thinks it's going to end soon, but Reggie, at what cost?
Well, I mean, the president's been saying that this war would end soon, Miranda, since the day that this war began, expecting it to only last a couple of days, but maybe a couple of weeks. And the question here is who is ultimately going to come out with a stronger hand. And most of the analysts that I've spoken to over the last couple of days suggest that Iran is going to be in a stronger position than it was before the war started. And that is because Iran and Oman are working towards a deal that would open up the Strait of Hormuz, but it would give Iran control on incoming ship traffic for a temporary period and would give oversight on outgoing ship traffic. And there is reporting this morning to suggest that Iran would also ban the access of Israeli vessels along with American vessels, and people who violate that would be subject to some kind of a toll. Obviously, the Americans are pushing back on this, but it goes to show that despite this kind of repeated pounding by the American military on Iran for the last 5+ months, Iran has vowed to not back down.
Right, and Reggie, as the U.S.-Iran war drags on, public support for it continues to diminish. And of course, Trump is going to have this on his mind with the midterms just around the corner. So can you tell us what happened during this week's midterm primaries that was good not only for Republicans, but for progressive Democrats as well?
Yeah, particularly in the state of Michigan, where Abdul El-Sayed, who the Republicans are claiming to be a socialist and a communist, he beat out an establishment Democrat who had been in the House for the last 4 terms, Haley Stevens. Her campaign had put $65 million into her race. Ultimately, El-Sayed came out on top. He is somebody who pushes for Medicare for all. He's been critical of aid for Israel, and he was, given the backing by Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who kind of make up the head of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. They see this as a viable path forward now for the progressives to gain some momentum this year. The Republicans argue that this is going to now make it an easier win for Mike Rogers, who ran unopposed for the GOP in Michigan. The president has come out critical of El-Sayed, but Democrats are now starting to rally around Michigan, and this is because the state is likely going to be crucial if Democrats want to regain control this year.
All right, and from Michigan, Reggie, back to Washington, where Dr. Anthony Fauci, who really was the face of America's COVID-19 response, he has been held in contempt of Congress by a Senate committee. So where exactly is this stemming from, and can any legal action actually be taken from this vote?
So the contempt vote stems from the fact that when he was in a congressional hearing last week, he pleaded the Fifth more than 110 times, refusing to answer any Republican questions. And Republicans said, look, you were given a blanket pardon by President Biden on his last day of office. You can't really hide anything because you're protected. The issue is it may not protect things that go beyond 2025, and it wouldn't protect anything at the state level. And there are at least 3 investigations into Anthony Fauci. Nonetheless, Republicans who control the Senate, they managed to get this contempt vote passed, and it was walked over the Department of Justice without going to the full Senate, which would typically be what precedent shows needs to be done. The question now is what's going to happen. Speaking with legal experts on Thursday, most said that because of the kind of powerful people that try to work in the DOJ and have influence on the DOJ, namely Donald Trump, that this may be a difficult charge to proceed forward with. Nonetheless, there is some precedent here for people who are found in contempt of Congress, including Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, both former Trump advisors. Both of them were jailed for 4 months. Different circumstances here, but it is something that Democrats fear is going to happen to Fauci.
All right, now also being targeted this week, Reggie, is birthright citizenship. Trump is specifically focusing on birth tourism. So where is this coming from? What can you tell us about that?
Well, this is being put together by Stephen Miller, who's kind of been the architect of the immigration platform in this administration. And it is worth remembering that on June 30th, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned executive orders that Trump had signed on his first day in office, trying to end birthright citizenship, writ large around the United States. These executive orders appear to be narrower, but they are likely going to face the same legal pushback, with the president aiming to say that people who are deemed illegal aliens or invaders, that they wouldn't be able to have their children born in the United States classified citizens. He's also trying to argue that people born in U.S. territories like Puerto Rico would also not be able to be a citizen. Obviously, that would face legal pushback. Congress would need to get involved in that. And in the idea of birthright tourism, there are a lot of countries who kind of advertise this, namely China and Russia. The president is trying to push back on that, arguing that it's a significant number of births. Most studies show that it's 0.2 or 0.3% of births. But it goes to show that despite the fact that there's been pushback from the U.S. Supreme Court, which Trump yesterday called disappointing, he is still actively trying to work through getting something in his immigration platform put onto paper and into law, but it is likely going to face legal pushback.
All right, another very busy week out of Washington. Reggie, thanks so much for the breakdown. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is our Washington correspondent, Reggie Cecchini.